Hello everybody, welcome to the webinar about intellipid with the main topics reporting and custom attributes. My name is Christina Rech. I'm the product owner for intellipid and also for Universal Reporter and the quality assurance module, and I welcome you to this webinar. Please feel free to place questions in the question panel or in the chat window. And of course, as always, you can send us an email if you have questions that we were not able to answer. First, we will start with the agenda, what we are going to see today. I will start with some slides. One of them is with the workflow, how the intellipid dataset is created, so that you know what you need to create such a package. Then I will give an overview about the existing functionality. It's just a short overview, so that people who have not seen the tool before know what it is about. And then we will come to the main topics for today, which are the new functions, like the possibility to generate reports, like the handling of custom attributes. And also I will talk about the roadmap for the next upcoming releases. The workflow to create intellipid package consists, if you like, of 3 steps. In the first step, you need to use the intellipid adapter to extract the data from the P&ID database and put them in a format that can later on be used in the builder and in the viewer. So this tool, called intellipid adapter, will extract data from a SmartPlant P&ID plant, and in the end it will create a file called UPVP, which contains all the necessary information, graphics plus attributes that you will later on see in the viewer. The attributes, they can be modified because the tool has an attribute configuration interface, so you can put your own customized attributes into the dataset if you like. The second step is that you will use the UniversalPlantViewer builder to create the package that you want to see later in the viewer. This package can be a P&ID standalone package if you would use this option without 3D data, but it can also be a package that consists of 3D data and P&ID data, so that in the end you have the possibility to link objects between P&ID and 3D, which I'm going to show later on in my live demonstration. The third step, after you have done these two, is to open the resulting package using UniversalPlantViewer, and then you have access to both P&ID and 3D within the viewer and can perform all the corresponding functions in there. From the functional overview, what I'm going to show in the live demo is the possibility to open P&IDs, click on graphical components, see the properties of those components. I will also show the possibility to change the color of existing objects, either manually or using what we call a color file. I will show the very important search function, where you can just key in a value that you want to search for, and then you will find the results in both 3D and P&ID, and you can access the result in the graphical interface. And I'm also going to show how you can click on a pump in P&ID, jump to the corresponding 3D objects, and also go the other way around, which means use the links in 3D to open the corresponding object and drawing on the 2D side. The reporting function will allow you to create report configurations. So you can really predefine reports and not always create them on the fly like we did in the past. For instance, you could create equipment lists, you can create valve lists, test system lists, and so on. And as you can see here, the result will be displayed directly in the viewer. You can also see how many rows you get for the active drawing, how many rows you get for the complete data set, And as a target for the reports, you can either use current drawing, which means the active one, all open drawings, which would refer to all the documents that are open at one time in the viewer, but also the complete data package that was exported from the P&ID database. And you can also modify the settings, you can modify the attributes, and in the end, you can always export the result to Excel, which you can hand out to other people that are interested to see the information. The custom attributes is a very important topic for us. And what we have done, we have created a possibility that you enhance your data model by adding external custom attributes. So I will later on show you this test system example. And in the list of the properties that you see within the viewer, the white ones are the ones coming from the application, and the ones with another color, like yellow or red in this case, are the additional properties that we have added to the data model in the viewer, and they do not come directly from the source applications. Here I have prepared a documentation, a little example. For instance, if you want to have additional commands for equipments, you can associate this new property to an existing property like equipment item tag, and you can define it either as a free text, as a number, or as a code list. So later on, I will show you exactly these three examples: the additional commands for equipments, an operational pressure attribute, which is on the pipe run level, and the test system number attribute, which is a more generic attribute because I placed it on the SPID property. This means that all the objects that have an SPID, you can click and modify the value for this attribute. This attribute has a code list, which means you cannot key in a free text like you can do for these two. You can select from the values that are in the code list, and if the code list value is associated to a color, then you can also use this color to display the graphic that is associated to a test system. So it's a real powerful feature. Especially, you can also report on these values. So the additional columns, they behave like existing columns, and you will see it in a few moments. Here, I will go out and start the live demonstration. This is the 3D viewer that many of you know. And what we have done, we have added the intellipid data set to the viewer, where you can search and open a P&ID like this one. You can zoom in and out. You can click on single or multiple objects, and then you will see the properties for those objects. And if you like, you can modify the color for objects, either using a single object for the modification or by saying I want to change the complete group to red. And there is also a quite nice function to take the modified colors away if you like. This one is reverting the colors. And if you want to use a fluid code, for instance, to set and define colors, like S to become red, the complete pipe runs that have the S, what you can do is to load a color file, for instance, for fluid code S and W. And in this case, all the pipe runs that have this fluid code, they change to red. And what you see down here, these two which have W, they change to blue based on the color file. And if I would create a PDF for these changes, then of course the modified colors will also be translated to the PDF file. As a next example, I want to show you the search function. If I click, for instance, D10, I will find some objects in 3D and some objects in P&ID which match with this search. So in 3D, I found 2 vessels. I can switch from one to the next. And in PID, I have apparently two equipments which are located in this drawing. So I can open the drawing, it will automatically open, and it will give me the possibility to see these results. I think even more interesting is if I would search for fluid code P across the drawings, then as you see, it finds 4 objects in 4 drawings. The blue color corresponds to the number of drawings. And then I can click on the first result and I can go to the next one. Automatically the next drawing will open and will zoom and mark the corresponding objects so that it's very, very easy to search for certain property values in the viewer. One more function that I want to show is the possibility to link between PID and 3D. So for instance, in this area, we could have a look at the pumps if they are available on the 3D side. And therefore, we implemented this button called Highlight Linked Objects, which will turn all the graphic to gray that is not linked. And the linked objects will stay in the original colors. So if I mark these 2 pumps, I can click on the Jump to 3D button, and then automatically here the pumps will highlight. And here I could click on another object like this tank, and you see the intellipid link. And if I activate it, it will automatically open the drawing that has this object. I could also click on a vessel and click on the link, and then it will automatically jump to PID. So this was a short, let's say, reminder and demonstration of existing functionality. And now I want to switch to the topics for today. First of the 2 topics is the reporting engine and the reporting interface. And I will first, as an example, create an equipment report, which is going to report on the objects from this drawing. So I'm opening the list with the report definitions. And this report will, by default, show me the current drawing equipment, so the ones that are in the current drawing. But even here, I do have the possibility to customize. In which way? I could customize by adding additional fields if I like. And then the report will refresh with the additional fields. But I could also customize by changing the scope to all elements, for instance. And if I hit OK, the report will be created for my complete package. And in here, I can also use filters if I want. So if I want to see, for instance, only the pumps, I could click on one and then say that I really want to use this as a filter. I could also add another filter like for what PID I want to see it. So it's really very easy to create this information. And if I want to export it to a file so that later on other people can access it, I can click on Save to Excel, and then the software will export this data to an Excel file. And in here, I have exactly the columns and the data that was predefined in the report. Another example which I have prepared, so I will close this one, is to create a pipe run list or a line list. So I will open this one called line list. This report will show the item tag, the fluid code, material class, pressure temperature values, and also the from and to information, which means where does a line start and where does it end, and also, if I like, in what drawing is the starting point for a line. These fields, they are not calculated in the viewer, they are calculated by intellipid adapter when the data is extracted, so they already are present within the viewer when we create the report. And of course, also for this report, I could say I want the complete data set. I want to add maybe some additional fields like pipe run nominal diameter, for instance. And if I say OK, then I get the list including the sizes for the pipe runs, and I could export this one to Excel as well as the other ones. So the next step that we are going to do for the reports is to allow also a highlighting graphics, and I will show this when I come to the roadmap later on. I now want to switch to the topic custom attributes. And if I click on this vessel, as you can see, we have this yellow field called additional comment. I could type a text in here, move to left, and I could do the same thing for the heat exchanger and say this one move to right. So these fields are now stored in the dataset, in the temporary dataset which I am using. If I create a report right now, equipment list with comments, I will see that this one has the move to left, this one has the other text, and within the report, I can easily say, here I want 1 meter, and here I want 2 meters. And if I go back to my drawing, you will see that it automatically reflects the changes from the report in here, but also the other way around. If I would modify the text in here and then go back to the report, you see that automatically the modifications are done. So it goes to both sides. Same thing will happen if I go to the pipe run to add this operational pressure to 120 psi, and now I use the OPC navigation to access the pipe run on the other side. You will see that automatically it has the same value, and also if I change the value here and I switch back, this one is reflecting the change automatically from the other side, and it will also be placed into the report. So if I create this report for the pipe run operational pressure, you see the values in here. And also here, if I change one of them, the other one reflects automatically, and it also reflects automatically on the PID. Probably you will now ask the question, what happens with these values? Are they stored somehow central or not? In the release that we have now, it will work fine if a single user works on the data set, but we are already working on conflict management and so on, so that we can merge the result back also from multiple users. But right now, what you would need to do in order to save these changes is to export them, and then you can use the import function if you want to see them later on, or maybe in 2 weeks from now when you continue working on the data set. Okay, now I think we come to a real interesting part. We come to the part where we want to define the test system. The test system is something that is stored in relation with the SPID of the objects, which means if I would change this value to TS001, then only the pipe run that I clicked on will have the change. But I could also make a collection of objects, for instance, also manually adding this valve to the collection. And then I can make this modification to the complete selection of objects. And if I double click on the value, the graphic will turn red because it's associated to the code listed value from the test system definition. I could also change this one, for instance, to TS002, and it will turn magenta. I can go to the other side, make my selection here as well, and also change to TS002. And now, as you see, we have two drawings where changes are done on the test system level. Of course, you could extend it to additional drawings and define the same test system. And if we activate this legend, then we can also see the meaning of the colors here in the list. And I will come later to the legend topic because we have something on our mind for the next release from the legend point of view. Also for the test system, we have the possibility to create a report, of course. So this report will show as a first attribute the test system with the color that is associated to it. It will show the item tags, but of course, if I really would like to, I could also add the SPID, which is the attribute where the test system right now is associated to. So you see there are a lot of more values, of course, if I do add it. And also in here, you could eventually open up the list and change to another value, and then the values will reflect the changes back into graphics. So what I want to say is that you can work from both sides. You can work from graphics and then have everything reflected in the reports, but you can also work in the reports and make the reflections back to the graphic. And also the test system report, I will take the SPID away and create it again. I could export to a file. And in this case, I have this Excel report with item tag, test system, drawing number. And this is something I could easily use for importing back to the P&ID database, either using Universal Reporter, which has this built-in import function, or by using other tools that are able to modify the P&ID data or the 3D data based on Excel files. Now, I want to switch back to the slide and activate the last one, which is about the roadmap. So what we are planning for the next release, which will be in a few weeks from now, to enhance the reporting function with a view item in drawing, which is in principle a highlight on the P&ID level, so that you can select, for instance, one or two valves, and you can use a highlight into the graphics and see where they are, and they would automatically be selected. We also want to implement a possibility to place a graphical legend with color codes on the P&IDs, so that when you export to PDF, you will have the legend placed together with the rest of the maybe color changes that you have done. We also want to include a commenting functionality so that at least you can put your own comments in the file, and they can be either associated to objects or be just, let's say, simple text comments that you place on the drawing. And also, we are thinking about a sketching functionality, which would allow you to create a new pipe run, maybe delete an existing pump, so make real modifications to the drawings and export the result to PDFs or eventually to other graphical formats that you can use later on. One thing that I did not yet mention is the linking functionality. This will also be added in near future, so that you have the same way like in 3D, the possibility to go both directions, that you can click on an object in intellipid and then open an external link. But also the other way around, if you have, for instance, an Excel file that has URLs pointing to UniversalPlantViewer, you can also access P&ID objects based on those links and not only 3D objects, a functionality which you already have now. In addition, we will make some slight changes to make the product better for the mobile platforms. One of them will be that you can click, when you export the data, a button that will say take the data only in black and forget about the colors, so that on the iPad, when you are within a plant, you can easily see the black color and not have all those different colors on the screen, which maybe are not so good on an iPad. Okay, I think I'm finished with the presentation. So thank you for your attention.